video. And welcome if this is your first time watching my channel, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. And I have a video today on the books that I make you think of. So I put a while back on my Instagram and also a post on my channel page, what books do I make you think of? And so the reason it took me a while to put this video up is I kind of went back and forth, hemming and hawing over the format of the video. I kind of had this big, grand vision of, having these beautiful quotes read from each of the favorite books and with some pretty scenery, and then just got really intimidated. And so now here I am. I'm just going to list off the books and tell you kind of the tally for the amount of times that a book was referenced. So I did get a fair number of responses, which was very fun. So they are basically compiled of mysteries and classics with two uncategorizable ones. And the first category that people said, the kind of books I made them think of, and this made me so happy, like I'm doing my job on my channel, is Cinderella retellings. I have been doing the Cinderella Chronicles project for a couple of years now, where I have been reading picture books and novelizations, fairy tale retellings of Cinderella, and watching film retellings, and it has been so much fun. And I just really love the bare bones story of Cinderella. So I plan to continue on with that project, and it makes me really happy that people think of Cinderella retellings. And also, Cinderella is not just, the Disney cartoon. There is so much just breadth covered with that character. She represents a lot in different fairy tale versions of, Cinderella. So yes, very much enjoying that endeavor. And then I will just pull this one off the shelf because it is right here, and that is Rosamund Pilcher. I'm very, very happy to be, linked with Rosamund Pilcher. She has so many warm domestic scenes in her novels, and the characters to me are just really engaging, and the way that she writes, I just sink right into her writing. Often they are set in Scotland. She only has about 4 big books, and then I have a whole stack of her littler books. But I really, really am kind of itching to read some Rosamund Pilcher this year, because I'm really craving all the gentle reads I've said, and Rosamund Pilcher definitely falls into the gentle read category. Then on to the mysteries. So 2 people said just mysteries in general, which I love being associated with mysteries. Cloak and Dagger Christmas is a highlight of my reading year. So I'm really, really pleased to be associated with that. And then cozy mysteries. So I do like both, but I'd say this year I'm gravitating more towards cozy mysteries, although I have not been reading enough cozy mysteries or enough mysteries this year. So I do currently have the next Maisie Dobbs book checked out. Now those do, I still think I would call them gentle, but they are very bittersweet. I know that emotionally I need to be ready before I go into one. The next one is Journey into Munich that I'm going to be reading. And so since World War II is ramping up, you can guess it's going to be tense times if Maisie is journeying into Munich. Then I had Mary Stewart. 6 people said that I made them think of Mary Stewart, and then some people specifically referenced Heirs Above the Ground and The Moonspinners. Heirs Above the Ground I really liked. It's like a middling Mary Stewart for me, but then unfortunately The Moonspinners I did not enjoy that much. But I do know in the years to come I'm going to revisit all the Mary Stewart, so I'll be curious kind of what I think all over again about The Moonspinners. It was sort of a lower down one for me. And then Phyllis Whitney. This makes me so happy. On and off again, Bree Hill and I read Phyllis Whitney together, and it's so fun to read with Bree, and I just love the gothic vibes in Phyllis Whitney's stories, and they are edge of your seat plots and just have me wanting to know so badly what is going to happen to these characters, and I cannot wait to read another one. It makes me think I should just plan to read another one very soon with Bree. And then Ruth Rendell. She is my favorite mystery author, and I think she will always stay that way because I am so incredibly nostalgic about that was the first mystery series that I fell in love with. I did read some Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew growing up, but I didn't fall in love with them. I enjoyed them, but it was when I came to read a psychological, more modern mystery that I thought, oh, this is everything that mysteries can be. So yes, Ruth Rendell will always remain my favorite mystery author, even if I don't talk about her as much. And then A Great Deliverance by Elizabeth George. The Inspector Lindley mystery series, is right up there with Ruth Rendell for me. Incredibly psychological and literary. You delve deep with these characters. You get into nitty-gritty situations with them. And it's just a glorious, glorious detective series. And then the Armande Gamache series by Louise Penny. I'm so honored to be associated with this. They tread this really great line between cozy and literary. And I do think there are more literary cozy mysteries out there than people who haven't really dipped their toes in much would think. And this is a really, really wonderful series. I know it can be hit or miss for people. So I would say if you don't like the first one, you're not going to like the rest of the series. I know some readers would argue you have to get to the fourth one, but I think that's also a lot to ask of someone to try 4 in a series to really decide if they're going to like it. Then we have Agatha Raisin. Yay! So another one that I think people would be surprised when they read it. It has, really the covers make it look like it's pure fluff, which, fluff reading has a time and a place. But I think people will be surprised at kind of the biting, sharp dialogue that is in there and the random cultural references. I think it's rather highbrow writing, and it makes for incredibly fun reading. And then The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie by Alan Bradley. This is the first in the Flavia de Luce series. And of course, so excited to be associated with this. I kind of have had my ups and downs with the Flavia de Luce series. And I think that I am not a series binger. I like to have space between my books when I read them. And so I think I just binged, too many right in a row. But now I just look on that series very fondly. And I only have, I think, 3 left in the series. So I will be very sad when I finish that. And then Susanna Kearsley, the author of, these time slip historical romances. It's this glorious, beautiful combination between plot and beautiful writing and characterization. Chef's kiss. Mwah. I love it. And the settings like Roman Britain, and going back to St. Petersburg in, I think it's like the early 1800s. These really interesting time settings. I've only had one Susanna Kearsley out of like the 8 that I've read that did not totally smash it out of the park. And I have in my TBR stack Bellwether by her. So I really am excited for that one. And let's see how many times I can say really in a video. And next is Amelia Peabody by Elizabeth Peters, our intrepid Amelia Peabody, who is an Egyptologist / archaeologist who works with her husband Emerson. She is a Victorian era lady who just breaks the mold because she is, this traveler, and she does not let the kind of ideals for the day of what a woman should be hold her back. And I love that about her. And then Comisarrio Brunetti series by Donna Leone. This is a wonderful series. I only started last year. My dad had been telling me forever and a day that I should read it, and I finally got around to it. If you want something, with the Venice setting and just all of the pasta and bread, you're going to want pasta and bread when you read this series. But it has some really interesting cases, and I do love Comisarrio Brunetti's family, especially going along with that. And then lastly, in the mystery category is Brat Farrar by Josephine Tey. This is a standalone written by Josephine Tey, and later on, Mary Stewart did a retelling of it, and I will put it right there because the title escapes me right now. But I definitely preferred Brat Farrar. It was one of those short books that really packed a punch and was just really interesting in such a short span of time. It's only, I think, around 250 pages, and it's got such interesting characterization in it about who can you really trust. Years ago, one of a set of twins disappeared, and then they come back and they say, I'm back, I'm here, and I'm here to get my inheritance. And so there's all of this questioning, are they who they say they are? And it is fascinating. Then we move on more to the modern classics. And we have Betsy-Tacy, probably my favorite on here to be associated with because it is very underrepresented on BookTube. So I'm just going to keep talking about it until it becomes as big as Little Women or Anne of Green Gables. And I just can't love on it enough. Joe Willard, to me, will always be my ideal literary man. Roger Hamley from Wives and Daughters is way up there, and Gilbert Blythe from Anne of Green Gables. But Joe Willard from Betsy-Tacy to me will just always be like numero uno for me as far as a man in a book. He is just number one for me. And then we have Little Women. So 3 people said I made them think of Little Women. This made me very happy. I love this book. And I think to me, it's the Louisa May Alcott book that I have loved the most. I haven't really, unfortunately, hit it off with many of her other books, but Little Women is just this beacon in there of warmth and coziness, getting through the struggles of life, knowing that life is not always going to be kind to you, but really clinging on to those that you love in the midst of that, and just hoping for better days. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And then All Creatures Great and Small, this series by James Herriot. I love this series, and I do kind of have a hankering to reread it, but I like to wait to reread books until I am just absolutely, positively desperate to reread them. So I think maybe next year, because I have enough that I'm kind of rereading this year. I want to spread out my rereads. And yes, I'm really very much looking forward to revisiting it at some point. But it is the story of James Herriot, who was a vet in Yorkshire, and the funny things that happen, the sad things that happen, the heartwarming things that happen. They're like loosely fictionalized memoirs. And then Anne of Green Gables. Now I know that I feel like I don't kind of, Katie from Life Between Words really is the person, you're going to associate with Anne of Green Gables, or Megan from Megan the Story Girl. But I am very, very honored that someone listed this. I love this book so much. I am very slowly getting through the rest of the series. You can see book 5 is missing. That is Anne's House of Dreams, and I am reading that. So far, Anne of Green Gables is my favorite in the series. I did really enjoy Anne of Avonlea and Anne of the Island. So far, Anne of Windy Poplars and Anne's House of Dreams I'm not enjoying as much. But Anne of Green Gables, I think, is just this literary masterpiece. And it's just so gorgeously, gorgeously written. It's just dripping with these beautiful, beautiful descriptions. And I actually, right now, Katie from Life Between Words, on her Instagram live, or on her Instagram, is at certain nights going live and reading aloud Anne of Green Gables. But I thought it might throw me off since I'm in the middle of Anne's House of Dreams. So I want to wait till I get through all 8 books in the series. This source book set only has the first 6 in the series, so there are 2 after. And I definitely want to get to Rilla of Ingleside, because I know from several Anne fans they consider it as good, if not better, than Anne of Green Gables. So I can't wait to get to that. But when I finish the series, then I will treat myself to Katie reading it aloud. I cannot wait for that. So I'm very glad it's saved on her IGTV. Another one that I was so honored to be associated with was Christy by Catherine Marshall. This is such a book that it's so special, and it's based on true events, and it was really fun for me. This was the first book I ever read with Megan Hannett, and we had deep chats while we read this book. We really got to know each other and kind of just discuss really the deep things of life and what we think about certain really hard issues. And it's about our character of Christy, who is a very young woman. I think she's 19 when it starts, and she journeys out to go to the Appalachian Mountains, or Appalachian, as I'm told you're supposed to say it. And she is a school teacher. And she comes in kind of with all these ideals and really a fair amount of snobbery, as she's going to tell them how to live, and she knows so much better. And she grows and matures and really sees kind of how you can see things a lot differently when you are willing to really listen. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and also has a really good romance in it. Then, so pleased and honored to be associated with Elizabeth Goudge. Just what an author, man. She was a Christian, and I think it really comes through in her writing, but without being OTT. And so far, Island Magic has been my absolute favorite. And but I really enjoyed the Eliot family trilogy, so that just shows you how much I liked Island Magic. And then I did enjoy A City of Bells. Unfortunately, the Dean's Watch, I did not enjoy as much. And the third book from the Eliot family trilogy, not quite as much. But that being said, not as much for Elizabeth Goudge. And so, I cannot wait to carry on with my reading of her books. And I still want to order Green Dolphin Street. That's her other like major one that I don't own. And it is very long. So I'm looking forward to owning that at some point. Next is the Victorian literature. So of course, I, as one of the hosts of Victober, it would have felt weird if people didn't put some Victorian literature on there. So people just put generally Victorian literature. Then someone put Kilvert's diary, the diary of clergyman Francis Kilvert. And I really, really love that book. So I was very pleased to see this on the list. And then I'll just keep them anonymous. I won't name any names. Someone said that I reminded them of Jude the Obscure. So I won't tell you who it is because I don't want to bring shame to their name, that they would associate me with the book that made me rip it. Link down below the video where I talk about ripping Jude the Obscure and all of my fury at the end of it. Moving on from all the negativity. Jane Eyre. 2 people put Jane Eyre. Love this glorious, glorious book. It is the quintessential Victorian novel. Does it have problematic elements as far as relationships go? Would I want my life to be like the novel of Jane Eyre? No, I would not. But it is a darn good story, and that's what I want. When I read a Gothic novel, I want to escape. I don't go there for, how I want my life to look like. And then we have Adam Bede by George Eliot. This book is really hard-hitting. It's got some very, very sad things that happen in it. So you have to be ready for it. But I just reread it in February, and it was just as beautiful as possible. And there's just so many beautiful quotes and things that I want to underline. And I always feel with George Eliot that I've kind of only scratched the surface, even though that was my second time reading through it. I always feel like that. I always feel like I'm a bit out of my depth, but I like that about her because it makes her books so memorable. And then we have just generally George Eliot. I did a fair amount of George Eliot videos this past Victober, and I had the privilege and honor of interviewing the 2 members of the George Eliot Fellowship, which was, I just kind of can't believe it happened to me, and it was so fun to put it out there for everyone to see, and it was just a marvelous, marvelous experience. So yes, George Eliot. I really hope this year to read Felix Holt. Maybe this summer, I don't know. We're gonna have to see. Maybe I'll just try to finish it by the end of the year. Maybe that will be my goal. Who knows? Then Elizabeth Gaskell. So I do think that maybe as far as making an impact on me, George Eliot maybe makes a bit more of an impact with how vividly her books stay with me. But as far as being a favorite, I don't think anyone will ever top Elizabeth Gaskell, because she, to me, like when I'm in a really intense dark mood, I want the Brontes. And when I want something more light, that's going to be this fun thing. Not that that it doesn't have any deeper meaning, but when I want something more lighthearted and amusing, I go to Jane Austen for that. But Elizabeth Gaskell, to me, is like the perfect happy medium author. So 2 people had North and South that they associated me with, and then 2 people just had generally Elizabeth Gaskell. And then 23 people, I'm going to grab it. Oh, I have it right behind the camera. Okay. 23 people put Wives and Daughters. And I'm very, very, extremely okay with that. I just think if you like Victorian novels, and then going back earlier, if you like Jane Austen, or hopping forward, if you like Barbara Pym, try Wives and Daughters. I can't recommend it enough. And I get a hankering now every single year to reread this story. Wives and Daughters, Wives and Daughters, Wives and Daughters. So I didn't think it would come as any surprise to people what the #1 book that people associate me with is. It has been so fun to think about all of these books that you associate me with, and just makes me want to reread a whole heck of a lot of them. Thank you as always for watching, and thank you if you contributed a title or an author or a genre that I make you think of. And I will be back for another video very soon. Bye.